Hi everyone, this is Simon Powers at Classical Guitar Corner. Before we dive into the lesson today, I want to address a question that will inevitably come up in the comments, and that is, what is with the hairdo? Well, earlier this year in 2021, that's for those of you watching in the future, I was diagnosed with cancer. And following on from that, I had a treatment of chemotherapy. And as many of you know, chemotherapy has lots of different side effects, one of which is that you lose a lot of your hair. So that's the reason. Luckily, one of the side effects is not that I lost my passion for teaching or classical guitar. So let's get into today's lesson. I want to share with you some of the techniques that you can use to really elevate your bass melodies. Sometimes in music we have glorious, prominent melodies in the bass. And while our right hand technique that we normally use in a normal right hand position will make a nice clear bass tone, it doesn't really compare to when we use rest stroke thumb or use another layer of other techniques to really bring it out and make it sing. So I want to give you a number of techniques. I want to talk about a different right hand position that not only allows you to play a rest stroke bass very easily, but it also brings out a very sonorous tone out of the instrument. I also want to address vibrato and playing over nodal points. All of these combine to give that lovely, very special singing quality to the bass line. Okay, so let's start with probably the most important thing I want to share with you, which is the right hand position. When we play normal repertoire, we'll be playing with a position that focuses more or less on I, M, and A. And the thumb comes down in that classic X position that's been made famous by Segovia's technique, coming down towards the index finger there. That makes contact with the string very much on the corner of the nail, and it's more or less a free stroke that originates back here in the last joint of the thumb there as we connect to the wrist. What I want to ask you to do though is to really rotate your right hand position so it's almost like you're doing a thumbs down into the sound hole. It really is dramatically changed compared to normal. So the first thing is, because when I introduce this to students at CGC Academy, they often don't go far enough the first few times. So I have to encourage you to do this in an exaggerated fashion. You can take your normal technique and kind of make a thumb, like as if we're going to give a thumbs up shape. Make a thumb shape, not necessarily up, and rotate the entire thumb so it's perpendicular to the soundboard. It's really pointing straight down. If I were to go on my side here, really down, it's quite dramatic. So we can do that, and this is not how we're going to play, but I'm just trying to introduce the position and the movement. Thumbs down, and then we're going to push into the guitar, down and into the guitar, so that we rest on the fourth string there. I'm playing the fifth string. That's the feeling. And you'll notice that no longer are we actually moving from that joint in the thumb, we're actually using the forearm. We're moving the arm. It's quite a different feeling. Very slight because there's not much distance happening, but it's coming from the arm. Now if we place, just as a stabilizer, I, M, and A back on the third, second, and first string, we start from a normal position, and then we're going to have to move. You'll feel your arm move up here. You can't stay in the same position, so it's going to move up towards your elbow and really bring that thumb around. So now I, M, and A are still making contact with the top three strings, but now you're getting a much more sonorous and deep tone out of that fifth string. So already just with that movement, we've gone from this sound to this sound. A big, big difference. With rest stroke, there's inherently more power because we're pushing and have more weight that's then blocked by that next string that rests on the next string. But there's also the direction that we're activating the string. We're pushing more into the instrument. So this kind of movement can be found if we play something like Villalobos or any melody. very dominant. The other thing that is particular to that Villa-Lobos etude and perhaps any other texture is that as you change your right hand position to preference, to give preference to the thumb, we are actually putting our index, middle and ring finger in a position where they don't get too much grip on the string compared to our normal playing position where they get a lot of follow through, a lot of sound. So it actually helps and it works to the advantage of a bass heavy texture because we have maybe a focus on the bass and a lot less on the treble. So it actually is a hand position that works to our advantage in that texture with a bass focus and a lighter accompaniment. Now, the next thing that's going to make your bass line really shine is the addition of vibrato. So yes, we have that deep sound that you can play around with, but adding in vibrato is going to make your bass lines really start to sing. They have that slight warble that carries the sustain of the note. It increases sustain, but it also creates a certain sound, a certain modulation in that frequency that is really attractive. It mimics the voice a little bit, hence the term making that bass line sing. We don't have to add vibrato on every single note we come across, but often the longer notes, the more sustained, held notes. So here we're doing it on the E, not on the F sharp, but G. And that can be really a huge addition to your bass melodies. Finally, the sort of cherry on top is if you play at nodal points. What's a nodal point? Well, that's where we find the harmonics. Those are called nodal points. And if we find the artificial harmonics, the octave, here's an E, 7th fret, so we're going to find that nodal point at the 19th fret. That's where you get that classic bassoon tone. That's the name that Fernando Saur came up with. It's a particular point where it sounds very, I don't know how to describe it. I mean, it's a sound. How can you describe it? It's kind of hollow, yet gong-like. So you find that first note, add vibrato, and you've got that right hand position for the rest stroke. And then as you move, you're more or less following those nodal points. Now that can be a little bit of a juggle if you're not used to it, but if you get used to it, you really can enhance and make a particular moment in the music sound very special. I'm not sure if I would do it all the time, but you can feature some particular notes, like maybe even beginning notes. Have a really sort of special moment. So we've got three things there. We've got the right hand position, really coming around to make that right hand thumb do a rest stroke that's controlled by the forearm, pushing in to the soundboard. The second is vibrato. And the third is finding that nodal point. An immediate difference there. Very beautiful tone. So find some examples in your repertoire where you can really make the bass melody shine with these three different techniques to make your bass sing.